One afternoon in August, the heat wave peaked and our air conditioning faltered. Sweating through my clothes, I decided on another bath. This time, I was more aware, but the temptation was too strong. As I emerged naked into the bedroom, the mower's hum filled the air. Manuel was closer this time, trimming the edges near the house. I stood there, heart racing, letting him see. Our eyes locked again, longer this time, and he didn't look away immediately. A flush crept over me, not just from embarrassment, but from arousal. I slipped on my robe, but later that day, when he knocked on the door to ask about the yard's irrigation, I invited him in for water. We talked in the kitchen, the air thick with unspoken tension. Manuel was polite, his voice deep and accented from his rural upbringing. He complimented the garden, and I found myself opening up about my life, my teaching, my marriage. He listened intently, sharing bits about his own losses. The wife taken by illness, the loneliness of his days. There was a vulnerability in him that mirrored my own. As he left, his hand brushed mine, and electricity shot through me. That night, guilt warred with excitement. Javier was away on a business trip to Barcelona, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The intimate moment came the following week. Javier extended his trip, and Manuel returned to work on a stubborn patch of weeds. I was in the garden, wearing a light sundress, when he approached. "Senora Vasquez, the roses are beautiful." "You have a green thumb," he said. We chatted, the conversation flowing easily. The sun beat down, and I invited him inside for shade and lemonade. In the cool living room, with the windows open, we sat closer than propriety allowed. His eyes held mine, and I felt the pull. "You've seen me," I whispered suddenly, referring to the window incidents. He nodded, a soft smile playing on his lips. "You're beautiful, Elena. Like a painting." The words ignited something. We leaned in, and our lips met in a kiss that was tentative at first, then hungry. It was emotional, laced with the loneliness we both carried. His hands, rough yet gentle, traced my arms as we moved to the couch. The intimate scene unfolded slowly, noticeably charged but veiled in tenderness rather than raw explicitness. He undressed me with care, his touch awakening sensations I'd forgotten, soft caresses along my skin, whispers of admiration that made me feel alive. We came together in a rhythm that was both passionate and poignant, bodies entwining in the afternoon light filtering through the curtains. It wasn't just physical. It was a release of pent-up emotions, a secret connection that filled the void in my heart. Afterward, we lay there, breathing heavily, the weight of what we'd done settling in. "This can't happen again," I said, but even as the words left my lips, I knew they were a lie. My name is Elena Vasquez, and I've always been the kind of woman who believed in the power of quiet strength. Born on a crisp autumn morning in 1985 in a small town just outside of Madrid, Spain, I grew up in a modest home with my parents and two younger brothers. My father was a mechanic, his hands perpetually stained with grease from long hours at the local garage, and my mother worked as a seamstress, her fingers nimble and calloused from threading needles and mending clothes for the neighborhood. We weren't wealthy, but we had love, fierce, unyielding love that bound us together through the lean times. I remember the smell of my mother's paella simmering on the stove, the way my father's laughter would echo through the house after a long day, and the endless games of hide-and-seek with my brothers in the olive groves behind our home. Those were simple days, filled with the sun-drenched hills and the distant chime of church bells on Sundays. As a child, I was curious and introspective, the girl who preferred books to dolls. I devoured stories of far-off adventures, imagining myself as the heroine in tales of romance and discovery. School was my escape. I excelled in literature and history, dreaming of becoming a teacher or perhaps a writer. But life in a small town had its limitations. By the time I was 16, I knew I wanted more than the expected path of marriage and motherhood right after high school. My parents supported me, scraping together what they could to send me to university in Madrid. It was there, in the bustling heart of the city, that my world truly expanded. University was a whirlwind. I studied literature at Complutense University, immersing myself in the works of Cervantes, Garcia Lorca, and even international authors like Jane Austen and Virginia Woolf. The campus was alive with protests, late-night study sessions, and fleeting romances that taught me the fragility of young love. I lived in a cramped apartment with 3 other girls, sharing laughter, secrets, and the occasional heartbreak over cheap wine. It was during my 2nd year that I met Javier Ruiz, my husband-to-be. Javier was studying architecture, tall and broad-shouldered with dark hair that fell just so over his forehead and eyes that sparkled with ambition. He was from a slightly more affluent family. His father owned a construction firm, and he carried himself with a confidence that both intimidated and intrigued me. We met at a campus cafe, both reaching for the last copy of a shared textbook on urban design's influence on literature. Our hands brushed, and from that spark, conversations flowed like the Manzanares River. Javier was charming, articulate, and deeply passionate about his work. He talked endlessly about sustainable buildings and the future of cities, and I found myself drawn to his vision. Our first date was a walk through Retiro Park, where we shared churros and dreams under the canopy of ancient trees. He made me feel seen, valued, not just as a student, but as a woman with ideas and desires of her own. We dated for 3 years, navigating the ups and downs of university life. There were arguments about our differing schedules, moments of jealousy when he flirted with classmates, but always, we reconciled with apologies and deeper intimacy. After graduation, Javier proposed during a trip to the Costa Brava. We were on a secluded beach at sunset, the waves lapping at our feet, and he knelt with a simple gold ring that had belonged to his grandmother. "Elena, you've been my muse, my anchor. Marry me, and let's build a life together," he said. I said yes without hesitation, tears streaming down my face. Our wedding was in 2009, a beautiful ceremony in my hometown church, attended by family and friends. I wore a lace gown my mother had helped sew, and Javier looked dashing in his suit. We honeymooned in Barcelona, wandering the Gothic Quarter and making love in a boutique hotel overlooking the sea. Those early days of marriage were idyllic. We moved to a small apartment in Madrid, both starting our careers, me as a high school literature teacher, him as a junior architect at his father's firm. Life settled into a rhythm. I taught eager teenagers about the beauty of words, grading papers late into the night while Javier sketched blueprints by day. We saved for a house, dreamed of children, and supported each other through the stresses of young adulthood. But beneath the surface, there were cracks. Javier's job demanded long hours, often leaving me alone in the evenings. I missed the spontaneity of our dating days, the way he'd surprise me with flowers or whisk me away for weekend getaways. As the years passed, intimacy became routine, a checkbox rather than a passion. We talked about starting a family, but work always seemed to get in the way. By 2015, we had bought our dream home, a spacious 2-story house on the outskirts of Madrid, with a large garden that backed onto a quiet community park. It was perfect, or so I thought. The house was our sanctuary. White stucco walls, terracotta roof tiles, and floor-to-ceiling windows that let in the golden Spanish sunlight. The garden was my pride and joy. I spent weekends planting roses, lavender, and tomatoes, turning it into a lush oasis. Javier, ever the architect, had designed additions to the layout, ensuring the open-plan living area flowed seamlessly into the kitchen. One of the features I loved most was the master bedroom window overlooking the side yard, large, frameless glass that made the room feel expansive and connected to nature. It was always left slightly ajar for the breeze, a habit from our Barcelona honeymoon. It was in this home that the story truly begins, the one that still haunts me with its mix of shame, excitement, and profound emotional turmoil. My name is Elena Vasquez-Ruiz now, married to Javier for over a decade, but on that fateful summer day in 2023, everything changed. Let me take you back, step by step, to how it all unfolded. I'll tell it as it happened, from my heart, because only by reliving it can I make sense of the secret I've kept buried deep inside. The summer of 2023 was unusually hot, the kind of heat that clings to your skin like a second layer. Javier's firm had landed a major contract for a high-rise in the city center, meaning he was gone from dawn until well past midnight, buried in meetings and site visits. I, on the other hand, was on summer break from teaching, with endless days stretching before me. Our garden, once vibrant, was wilting under the sun, so we hired a local service to maintain it. That's how Manuel entered our lives. Manuel Garcia was the janitor, or more accurately, the groundskeeper, for the community. In his mid-40s, he was a sturdy man with sun-weathered skin, salt and pepper hair cropped short, and hands rough from years of manual labor. He mowed the lawns, trimmed the hedges, and kept the communal areas pristine. I'd seen him around, exchanging polite nods when he worked on the park, but we never really spoke. One sweltering afternoon in July, I decided to take a bath to escape the heat. The house was quiet, Javier at work as usual, and I felt a rare sense of solitude. I filled the tub with cool water, added lavender oil from my garden, and slipped in, letting the water soothe my body. The master bathroom connected to the bedroom, and with the window open to catch any breeze, I didn't think twice about privacy. As I soaked, my mind wandered to memories of happier times, Javier and I dancing at our wedding, the way he'd whisper sweet nothings in my ear during our early years. But lately, those memories felt distant, overshadowed by the loneliness that had crept into our marriage. Javier was still the man I loved, but the spark had dimmed. Our conversations were practical, our touches obligatory. After the bath, I wrapped myself in a towel and stepped into the bedroom, the air thick and still. I let the towel drop, standing naked before the mirror, examining the woman I'd become. At 38, my body was softer than in my youth, curves from years of comfortable living, faint stretch marks from a miscarriage we'd never fully grieved, but I still felt a quiet sensuality in my reflection. The window was open, curtains billowing slightly, and without warning, I heard the low hum of a lawnmower outside. Glancing out, I saw Manuel below, pushing the mower across our side yard. He was shirtless in the heat, his muscles glistening with sweat, focused on his task. For a moment, our eyes met through the glass. He froze, the mower idling, and I realized with a jolt that he could see me, completely exposed, vulnerable. Panic surged through me, but instead of rushing to cover myself, a strange thrill held me in place. It was as if time slowed. His gaze lingered, not leering, but appreciative, almost reverent. I quickly grabbed a robe, my heart pounding, and closed the curtains. But the damage was done. That evening, as Javier came home exhausted, and we shared a perfunctory dinner, my mind replayed the moment. Was it embarrassment? Yes, but also something deeper, an awakening of desire I'd long suppressed. Manuel's look had made me feel desired, seen in a way Javier hadn't in years. It was the beginning of a secret that would unravel everything. The next day, I avoided the window, busying myself with housework. But curiosity gnawed at me. Around noon, I heard the mower again and peeked out cautiously. Manuel was there, methodical as ever. This time, I watched him, noting the way his body moved with quiet power, the determination in his posture. He was a simple man I knew from neighborhood gossip, widowed young, with a grown daughter in another city, scraping by on odd jobs. Nothing like Javier's polished world. Yet, there was an authenticity to him that intrigued me. Days turned into weeks, and the encounters became a routine I couldn't ignore. I'd find excuses to be near the window when he worked, watering plants, reading in the garden chair. Once he waved, and I waved back, a shy smile on my lips. It felt innocent at first, a harmless flirtation born of boredom and neglect. But emotion stirred. I began to fantasize about what his life was like, about the stories behind his calloused hands. Javier noticed my distraction but attributed it to the heat, pulling me into bed one night with a rare tenderness. Our lovemaking was passionate that evening, reignited by my secret thoughts, though he never knew why. One afternoon in August, the heat wave peaked and our air conditioning faltered. Sweating through my clothes, I decided on another bath. This time, I was more aware, but the temptation was too strong. As I emerged naked into the bedroom, the mower's hum filled the air. Manuel was closer this time, trimming the edges near the house. I stood there, heart racing, letting him see. Our eyes locked again, longer this time, and he didn't look away immediately. A flush crept over me, not just from embarrassment, but from arousal. I slipped on my robe, but later that day, when he knocked on the door to ask about the yard's irrigation, I invited him in for water. We talked in the kitchen, the air thick with unspoken tension. Manuel was polite, his voice deep and accented from his rural upbringing. He complimented the garden, and I found myself opening up about my life, my teaching, my marriage. He listened intently, sharing bits about his own losses, the wife taken by illness, the loneliness of his days. There was a vulnerability in him that mirrored my own. As he left, his hand brushed mine, and electricity shot through me. That night, guilt warred with excitement. Javier was away on a business trip to Barcelona, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The intimate moment came the following week. Javier extended his trip, and Manuel returned to work on a stubborn patch of weeds. I was in the garden, wearing a light sundress, when he approached. "Señora Vasquez, the roses are beautiful." "You have a green thumb," he said. We chatted, the conversation flowing easily. The sun beat down, and I invited him inside for shade and lemonade. In the cool living room, with the windows open, we sat closer than propriety allowed. His eyes held mine, and I felt the pull. "You've seen me," I whispered suddenly, referring to the window incidents. He nodded, a soft smile playing on his lips. "You're beautiful, Elena." Like a painting. The words ignited something. We leaned in, and our lips met in a kiss that was tentative at first, then hungry. It was emotional, laced with the loneliness we both carried. His hands, rough yet gentle, traced my arms as we moved to the couch. The intimate scene unfolded slowly, noticeably charged but veiled in tenderness rather than raw explicitness. He undressed me with care, his touch awakening sensations I'd forgotten. Soft caresses along my skin, whispers of admiration that made me feel alive. We came together in a rhythm that was both passionate and poignant, bodies entwining in the afternoon light filtering through the curtains. It wasn't just physical. It was a release of pent-up emotions, a secret connection that filled the void in my heart. Afterward, we lay there, breathing heavily, the weight of what we'd done settling in. "This can't happen again," I said, but even as the words left my lips, I knew they were a lie. From that day, the affair deepened. We met in stolen moments. When Javier was at work, I'd leave the window open as a signal, and Manuel would find excuses to come by. Our encounters were emotional tapestries, conversations about our pasts, shared laughs over simple meals, and yes, more intimate moments that grew in intensity, but always with a layer of discretion, noticeable in their fervor yet not overt for prying eyes. I told him about my childhood dreams, the miscarriage that had strained my marriage, the way Javier's ambition had pulled him away. He shared stories of his youth in the countryside, the pain of losing his wife, the quiet dignity of his life. It was infidelity, yes, but wrapped in genuine affection, making the cheating all the more heartbreaking. Guilt consumed me in waves. I'd cry in the shower after Manuel left, vowing to end it, only to crave his presence the next day. Javier sensed something was off. My distracted smiles, the way I'd linger in the garden, but he was too busy to probe deeply. Our marriage suffered. Arguments flared over trivial things. Intimacy between us became forced. Yet, I loved Javier still, in a complex way that the affair only complicated. The secret bound me to Manuel emotionally, creating a double life that tore at my soul. As autumn approached, the heat faded, but our passion didn't. One evening, with Javier out late, Manuel and I shared a dinner in the kitchen paella I cooked, reminiscent of my mother's. We talked for hours, the intimacy building to another close moment on the living room floor, where our connection felt profound, bodies moving in harmony under the dim lamplight, emotions spilling over in quiet confessions. It was noticeable in the way my breath quickened, the subtle shifts of fabric and touch, but always with a public sensibility, implied rather than described in graphic detail. The turning point came in October. Javier announced a promotion that would take him to oversee projects in Valencia for months. Relief mixed with dread, more time with Manuel, but also more risk. We continued, our affair evolving into something almost domestic. He'd help with chores. We'd walk in the park at dusk, holding hands like lovers. But the emotional toll mounted. I began journaling, pouring out my turmoil, the thrill of being desired, the pain of betraying the man who'd given me stability, the fear of discovery. Winter brought rain and reflection. Manuel and I met less, the weather a barrier, but when we did, the encounters were charged with longing. One stormy night, as thunder rolled, we found solace in each other again, the intimacy a shelter from the chaos, noticeable in the way rain pattered against the window as our world narrowed to just us. Spring 2024 renewed everything. The garden bloomed, mirroring my reawakened spirit. Javier returned periodically, and I'd play the devoted wife, but inside, I was fractured. The affair with Manuel became a lifeline, emotional and physical, with moments that hinted at depth without excess, shared glances, tender embraces that spoke volumes. By summer 2025, as the current date marks September 8th, the weight became unbearable. Javier noticed changes in me, and one night, he confronted me. "Elena, what's wrong? You're distant." Tears flowed as I confessed parts, not the full truth, but enough to strain us. Manuel and I met one last time, in the garden under the stars, our farewell intimate yet restrained, a final dance of bodies and souls that left me hollow. Now, as I write this, the secret lingers, emotional scars healing slowly. The janitor who saw me naked through the open window became more than a glimpse. He became my forbidden love, a chapter of infidelity that taught me the depths of human desire and the cost of cheating on the heart. I am Elena Vasquez-Ruiz, wife, teacher, and woman forever changed.